Hiking is one of many activities that's great for self-care and building self-awareness. Going out into nature is another way to do that. Our next speaker has cultivated an awareness about both herself and our oceans at large. Please welcome Juliette Jorgenson.
I was born on September 11th, 2001, in the same moments as the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. Although I witnessed neither the atrocity of this day nor its immediate aftermath, I was raised with a profound understanding that in times of catastrophe, we must find hope. Through these reminders of how precious and unpredictable life is, comes the impulse to search for what truly matters to each one of us, to find purpose, to spread hope in the midst of despair. We feel motivated to stand up for the causes that are much larger than ourselves, broader than our immediate circumference. I wish to spread hope in honor of every man, woman, child, and first responder who lost their lives on the day that I gained mine. Growing up on the Big Island of Hawaii, my childhood days were spent immersed in the ocean, surfing, swimming, and exploring the reefs. It was here on this island that I discovered a purpose to spread hope. I first learned of the ways in which we are destroying our oceans during a speaker presentation in my elementary school. I was then a young child who refused to use plastic bags and who forced my parents to transition to only cloth napkins rather than paper ones. From the presentation, I understood the ways in which we are inflicting harm upon our oceans, but I never experienced it, realized its magnitude, or stood up and made a definitive change. It wasn't until last summer, when I traveled to the Dominican Republic, that I witnessed the destruction we've caused firsthand. I plunged into the Caribbean, newly scuba certified and stoked to dive in a destination known for its pristine reefs and exquisite marine life. As I was about to descend, I noticed something glinting on the surface of the water. I reached out, and my hand closed around a silver wrapper. I then noticed more and more: plastic bags, straws, cups, bottles, and bits of garbage. As the rest of the divers descended below, I spent the entirety of the dive on the surface, collecting handfuls and handfuls of plastic waste and dumping them in piles onto the dive boat. As I stepped back onto the deck, I felt my stomach lurch with disgust, staring at the revolting stacks of bottles and bags at my feet. In that moment, I promised myself that I would prevent our oceans from turning into a floating island of plastic waste. But how on earth can one individual make an impact in solving an issue as enormous and overwhelming as this? And why should one even consider attempting to battle such a huge calamity? Because if we carry on how we are now, by the year 2050, there will be more plastic in our oceans than actual fish. We must care because our oceans provide us with half of the oxygen we breathe. Billions of services, jobs, and companies revolve around its health, and it moderates our climate. The ocean encompasses 3/4 of our planet, and we are the only species that creates waste that our seas cannot digest. Consider that every single piece of plastic that was ever produced in history still exists. 8 million tons of plastic enter our oceans every year. To put that into perspective, those 8 million tons equal the mass of roughly 18,000 commercial jet airliners plummeting into the Pacific annually. In other words, the majority of all waste that enters our oceans is plastic and begins with us on land. We can only reverse this calamity by living with purpose, It is what we ignore when we see a plastic bottle on the beach and think, that doesn't belong to me. Someone else will take care of it. It's what we fail to think of when we carelessly toss a plastic bottle into the trash because we're too lazy to find a recycling bin. The average individual discards 185 pounds of plastic per year, most of which goes into the oceans. So, what can we possibly do beyond finding that recycling bin and avoiding single-use plastics? I created my own business, selling wall hangings constructed out of driftwood and lace, and donating the profits to an organization called the Coral Reef Alliance. This is a local nonprofit organization that is dedicated to conserving our coral reefs, which is pivotal to the well-being of our oceans. It has been so rewarding to raise money for a cause that directly impacts the ocean's ecosystems in a manner that we cannot do ourselves. There are countless ways that one individual can make an impact, though, without donating money or making a business. For example, if you were to use a metal straw rather than a plastic one, you're saving our oceans from a piece of plastic that would take 500 years to decompose. It will outlive you by centuries, and there are even metal straws for boba. Have you ever considered cleaning out your Ziplock bags to reuse them? By doing this, you're rerouting a piece of plastic that would have potentially added to the floating island of trash that I'm sure you know of as being equal to the size of Texas. But you might not be aware that it has since grown to the size of Russia. There are countless other ways to make an impact, and these are just a few. This summer, a new company called Loop will be launched. Their purpose is to rid the world of single-use plastics by providing a door-to-door service that delivers products in reusable containers and collects them when you're finished. Now, being born on a day of devastation has only reinforced my desire to spread hope, but this is intrinsically present within all of us. And having hopeful idealism alone is not going to create change, but taking action does. And so I ask that as you reflect upon what matters to you, beyond your loved ones and your cherished causes, keep our beautiful oceans in the forefront of your minds. Thank you.